Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by incoming junior on the St. Bonaventure women's lacrosse team, Brooke Piper. Brooke has played in 25 games and has scored 55 goals, had 15 assists, 28 ground balls, 19 caused turnovers, and 112 draw controls in her career. This allowed Brooke to make the 2024 Atlantic 10 All-Conference second team. Brooke also set the program's single season program record in draw controls with 68. Off the field, Brooke was on the 2024 CSC Academic All-District list and was a Atlantic 10 Commissioner's Honor Roll honoree. Recently, Brooke won a silver medal for Team Canada in the U20 World Championships. I'm super excited to talk to her today. So, welcome to the podcast, Brooke, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first thing I want to ask you was obviously, I assume fall ball has just begun for your team. So, how is fall ball going for yourself and so far with you and your team, I guess, so far this semester?
Yeah, fall ball's been going pretty good. We have our first play day next weekend. We go to Pitt. We're really excited. I think that we have a lot of freshmen on our team this year. We have 14 freshmen, which means that, trying to build up chemistry with those people, learning how to play with everybody, tendencies, what they're best at, where they fit, and how we can kind of like get them into the program, buy into the culture and everything like that. All the pieces are still coming together, but they're grinders and they're really hardworking. And same thing with the rest of our team, right? So fall ball is going pretty smoothly because, we have a good group, we have a good culture, we have great coaches. So that makes it a little bit easier. Personally, I'm loving fall ball right now. It's our off season essentially, but that doesn't mean that we're not taking it seriously. We get things like our individuals working on like refining our skills, everything. I really like being able to, lift with my teammates, push a little bit more weight. We have more one-on-one time with our coaches, everything like that, and just get to know the girls a little bit better. So it's been going really good.
That's good to hear. Obviously, you're one of the older players on the team now, being a junior. So, I'm just curious, what type of leadership have you sort of thought about trying to bring to the team for the upcoming year? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I would say like a little bit of both. I try and be as vocal as I can with my teammates, but sometimes for me, it's just like I go a little bit more internal and like I just have to do me right now, and I can't really like voice what should be happening. Sometimes I just have to do it in a sense. So, I'm trying my best to be able to help with the freshmen, and even like we have a small sophomore class. They're like pretty good. They got four of them, but they're disciplined. They do what they need. But still learning the ropes and everything because I was just a sophomore last year. Like I still had things that I needed to learn. So I'm doing my best to be able to help everybody out. Just be a familiar face if they need anything, whether that's on or off the field. Like I'm trying my best to um, make sure that I'm available. So I try to be that vocal leader, I guess you could say. But then there's times where I'm like, okay, we just have to everybody lock in a little bit and let's just do this, like put your head down, bury it out, like let's just play in a sense. So a little bit of both, I'd say. That's me.
Yeah, what are some things you've been working on this summer and in the fall to sort of get ready for the upcoming season? Like, what are some things that you think you need to improve on, I guess, to be an even better player for your junior year?
For me, I've always struggled a little bit with my quickness and explosiveness off of the line, which is a little bit weird because I do play on the circle a lot. So that's something that a lot of people would excel at. But I've always been better with like more longer distances. Like I love to just run, which is a blessing and a curse being a two-way midi because I still need to be able to sprint at certain times and like change direction, do all of those things. So over the summer and anytime that I can, I'm really always trying to make sure that I can put in the work to become more explosive. And that's one thing that I was really working on this summer because I recognized that there was a big difference in between my freshman and sophomore year when I spent my time working on that, and I want to just improve on those little things every single time I get the opportunity. And then another thing that I was working on really important to me was just my footwork, little things, going through ladders, breaking down my feet, as well as stick work, catching inside the eight, little tight catches, anything like that, receiving pressure. I guess you could say a little bit of everything, but I'd say that being quick and explosive was definitely the biggest one that I was focusing on.
Now, speaking of summer, how was your summer? Did you do anything interesting, whether it was lacrosse related or not? Obviously, we're going to be talking about what you did last month, but outside of that, I'm just curious if you did anything interesting during your time away from school.
Yeah, I definitely did. I got to see some of my friends from high school, which I don't really get to see them. They're playing NCAA Division One as well, so we're all super busy. To be able to see them is pretty awesome. I also got to see some friends from school for a little bit. I got to work. I work at a theater company, and it's my one of my favorite things to do. And then I went to the aquarium. Pretty much that's my summer. A Jays game maybe here or there, and yeah. That was it, besides Hong Kong.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hopefully you had fun at the aquarium. What's
I
your
did.
favorite thing to see there?
I saw a stingray, and
That's cool.
I like to think that it smiled at me, but people just say that they smile at everyone. But it was looking right at me.
Were you allowed to touch it? Because I know some aquariums let you do that.
Yeah, yeah. There's after you go through the entire aquarium, there's like a spot at the end where there's like an open water, I guess you could say, and they'll swim up from the bottom of like the tanks, and then they'll like jump up and try and like pet, like not pet, but like get attention so that you can pet them. So it was,
That's cool.
yeah, it was really cool.
Well, hopefully the Jays game was fun as well. It's tough. They've had a bad year this year, so hopefully next year it's a little bit better.
Yeah, they're not doing too hot, but they redid the entire stadium there.
I
So
saw it looks weird now on TV.
it's like you can just get a general admission ticket for like $20, which is a great deal, and you're inside the park and you can walk around, you can stand, you can find a seat. There's like bleachers that you can sit on. Um, but it's more open concept, I guess you could say, if that's the way
hmm
that I would describe it. It's a great atmosphere though. Like I love that stadium and it's amazing.
Yeah, it seems like the outfield area looks a lot more like you can see more stuff and there's more seating. I know that was the big thing they were trying to work on the past couple of years. So I don't know. It looks cool from TV. I gotta go visit at some point, but hopefully this winter they don't trade Vladdy. That's kind of my thing I'm crossing my fingers for.
No, I love him. He's great.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be gone either. I mean, my favorite player was Edwin Encarnacion. They got rid of him. I was crushed. If they get rid of Vladdy now, I'm gonna be I'm all out of my favorite players.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see what happens, but he's a free agent after this year, so eventually he's gonna be. Hopefully, they can find a way to keep him in the six. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Now let's start talking about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of work all the way up to where you are today. So you're from Ontario, Aurora specifically. So talk about growing up there and how did you start playing lacrosse?
I started playing lacrosse because my brother played lacrosse. It's not really a big sport in my town. The people that would play were few and far between, but it was very, very tight community. My brother played box and field growing up, and my parents asked me if I wanted to play. There was no girls program when I was younger, and my first answer was no, I don't want to play. And then I went to one of my brother's box games and showed up. I was like a little kid and sat there and watched him play. And then I looked at my mom. I was like, "Can I play?" I loved it. So I played boys box and boys field for about 9 years. It got really difficult at some points just to play boys. And when my mom was on a trip with my brother in the States for one of his travel programs, she saw women's lacrosse for the first time and was like, "We have to get this at our club." So I played for the Newmarket Redbirds, boys box and boys field. My mom came back and she was like, "We're starting Newmarket Redbirds, but we're starting like a women's program too." So she started the field women's field program for my center, and she signed me up. She's like, "You're playing," and I fell in love with the game. We had a really small community. We had all of the hockey players that I grew up playing with. Anybody that we knew that played a sport, we were like, "Just come and try it." We have no expectations. We just want to see what it's about, and then it's stuck. It's been around for over maybe 10 years now. I think they just celebrated the 10-year of the women's program, so that was how I got into lacrosse, and it's a cool experience for me because my mom is really the one that got me into it, and my brother, I guess. But yeah, I got the opportunity to play both boys box and field, and then women's field, so that was awesome.
That's definitely cool. And did you think playing boys lacrosse sort of helped make the transition, or was there anything that you learned from playing boys lacrosse that you think that's helped you with girls specifically?
Yeah, I think that well, at first it definitely was not easy. I remember my first women's lacrosse game, I had just come from boys field provincials and I we didn't know the rules. Like nobody knew what was going on. We genuinely just showed up and we're like, let's just see what happens. I got a yellow card within the first like 2 minutes of the game because I ran from like one game of boys to the women's side and it was so bad. Kept on yelling at me like the refs. I was like, why? I didn't do anything wrong. Like you can hit them, but apparently you couldn't hit them. So at first it definitely wasn't easy, but again, in a way that physical aspect of the boys game and like especially in box and everything, just knowing that like you're gonna get beat up, like you're gonna get contact and you have to be able to like handle that and just keep on going through. Probably one of the biggest things that I would say, because you meet some players and they might be scared to take that contact. They might be scared to get a little bit of a push on them. But I I had to if I wanted to play boys, and so translated over into the field game for me, and that was a pretty big thing because I just wanted to play, so I just run through everything that I could. It was way different and kind of set me apart a little bit from what other people had in their experience when they started playing girls.
Now, growing up, who was like your favorite lacrosse player or team that you like to watch?
My favorite lacrosse player was Cam Woods. He played for the Toronto Rock, and his son was on my boys box team, and he was my coach. He was like kind of the only real person that I knew that really played lacrosse, and he was my head coach. It was so cool. Like he played professional lacrosse. We would go to his games, and I'd be like, "That's my coach on the floor right now." So with that, I loved watching the Toronto Rock growing up. We would go to all of their games. Like they're just so much fun, and he like really fostered that passion and love for lacrosse with me, and that it's cool to like be good at something, be gritty, like wanna play a sport. I remember his son when we did our box tryouts, he gave me a blood blister on my finger. It was like I didn't know what it was, and then he came up to me and he was like, "Oh, like I'm gonna caught Marshall because of that. Like he gave you a blood blister or something." I was like a little kid. I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, and he picked me on the team like the next day. But like that was the first conversation I had with him, and he just made me feel like I was doing something good, a good player, and yeah, I always looked up to him for that. And I wouldn't really have loved lacrosse if he wasn't there. So that was really good.
Yeah, not many players can say that they were coached also by their favorite player growing up. So that's pretty cool that you get to say that.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm very, very lucky. And he still lives the family still lives in Aurora, and I'll see him around and I'll be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And like we won't have seen each other for years, but it's like things never changed. I've known him since I was a little kid, and every time I see him I'm just like, "Oh, person that got me into lacrosse, like the person that made me want to play become something."
Now, before college, like you mentioned, you played for the Newmarket Redbirds Lacrosse Club, and you also played for your high school at Hill Academy. So, talk about your high school and club lacrosse days, what you took away from it, and what's like the best memory you have from your pre-college lacrosse days.
Yeah, so with the Newmarket Redbirds, like I said, like we were a really small club. I would have girls on my team that were just showing up because like their parents wanted them to be there. They weren't there to like really take things seriously. It was just a sport. Like they just want to do something, be a part of something, which was totally fine. But for me and like I'd say one to two of my teammates, we had goals. We loved the game. We wanted to go further with the game, and the skill level that we had varied. Like if you signed up to play on my club team, you made it. There were no cuts or anything like that. Like you showed up, you had a stick and some cleats and a goggles and a mouse guard. They'd be like, "Here you go. Like get on the field." So I'd say that the biggest thing that I took from Newmarket and being a Redbird is just like grittiness and like being able to kind of like overcome adversity because there were times that we were playing against teams that had a lot more skill, a lot more depth. They were more of like a rep program and they had, girls that wanted to be there more than some of the girls on my team. And I love my team. But I wanted to compete. And so sometimes I just kind of had to like look at myself and be like, okay, this is on me right now. Like I need to go get this ball. I need to go and help my team out on defense because the person beside me might not know what they're doing. This could be the first time that they've ever even played a sport, period. So having that kind of like, mentality and like showing up every day and being like, I got to do this for me and for the people beside me is something that I definitely learned from being a Redbird, and I will never take that or change that from my game because it taught me a lot. Um, Even when you're down, especially when you're down in a lacrosse game, like we lost a lot, and you just couldn't get upset. You couldn't be frustrated because people were just there to have fun, and like I was there to have fun too, but I also wanted to win. So you just had to know that like you're doing your best out there, like keep going, keep grinding, keep doing your best, keep working on the little things, even if the outcome isn't going to be what you wanted. You know, just celebrate the little wins that your teammates have. Like those kinds of things were really big about being a Redbird. For the Hill Academy, when I transferred there, I went to high school, grade 9 and 10. I went to Aurora High, which was a public school. COVID hit my grade 10 year. My parents were like, hey, school's going to be online. Like, we're probably going to send you to a private school. And I was like, I would love to go to the Hill. Like, I would love to go there. It's like my dream. And so I went. They are just a phenomenal program. They preach having your highest level of achievement and how you get there. Everything that you do throughout the day is what is going to get you there, whether that's on the field, off the field, in the classroom, in the weight room, being a good teammate, all those kinds of things. Those all accumulate to you reaching your highest level of achievement. And it's not easy. It's not something where you show up, you walk on the field, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna be the best, right? Like you need to have that mentality, but it's not gonna happen overnight. And that's something that they taught us and they showed us and they made us want it. If you showed up at practice every single day, you were there to get 1% better. And every day, if you did that, you were winning. If every day you showed up in the weight room and you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna give it my all, give it everything I can because I have to be here. Even if you didn't, even if you were having a tough day, like you couldn't leave. You're letting your team down if you weren't doing that. You're having a rough morning, you're tired, whatever it is, you had to be there, you had to show up. They got the weights out for you. They'd be like, hey, put 10 more pounds on. Go out there, do your best, and you're helping your team. You're helping yourself. You're helping reach your highest level of achievement in the classroom, being a teammate, no matter where you were. That's what it was about. And I think that just that culture and that intensity, all of those things, they translate to not only lacrosse, but like every aspect of my life. Like when we're talking about being good teammates, I always remember being at the Hill and the small community that we had. It was so remarkable to be able to be a part of that program. And you know, I had 18 girls on my team that I hung out with every single day, every second, every class, no matter where we were always together. There were highs and lows, but like that was my family. And so whenever I'm somewhere, I just remember about reaching your highest level of achievement, being a good person, and how you're going to get there and how in that moment you can apply that to every aspect of your life. It's so remarkable the impact that they made, um, not just as an athlete. It was great.
Now, you also played hockey growing up, and since I'm a massive hockey fan, I just wanted to ask you where you played and what position you played and like what that experience is like for you because people think since I have a lacrosse podcast that that's probably my favorite sport, but it's not. So I feel like I have to ask you that one question before we get to the St. Bonaventure stuff.
Yeah. I love hockey. I played for the Aurora Panthers growing up. They're now called the Central York Panthers, which is just like my hometown team. I was a center, I played wing, and I played defense at one point. I played defense for 1 year when I was like, I want to say maybe 12 years old. But I mainly was a center or a winger. Uh, yeah, I loved hockey. I thought I was gonna go D1 for hockey. Like that was my goals. Those were my dreams. That's what I wanted. And that's what I was like talking to coaches for. That was really my recruiting process. And then I just didn't really have the same love for stepping on the ice as I did when I got on that field. So I was like, maybe this isn't for me, but I love hockey so much. I miss it. Some days I'm like sitting there and I'm just like, I forget how to play hockey a little bit. I haven't been on the ice in way too long. I'm like watching a game and I'm like, oh, I wish I was there. But no, it's the being a dual sport athlete, especially growing up, the skills that you don't even think would be taken into consideration of applying them anywhere else, they do. Like your physicality in hockey was crazy impact in lacrosse because people could just body you off of a puck, where in women's lacrosse, it's like non-contact, even though it's not non-contact. So that was a really big thing. Also, I think that the hand-eye coordination is probably something that, like, I mean, you know, the footwork of, let's say, a soccer player. If a soccer player wanted to come and like be a defender in lacrosse, like I feel like that would be a huge thing for us. That simple like hand-eye coordination of like, your stick and being able to like use another part of your hands and like play with a ball or a puck or anything like that. That's probably one of the things that made it a little bit easy to go from like my winter sport to like my summer sport.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Who's your favorite team that you root for?
I like the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, I'm a
No
Bruins
matter.
fan, so I know you probably already hate me now that I mentioned that.
Yeah, no, I don't. I hate the Bruins. This is funny. My one of my best friends is a Bruins fan, and I'm like, we can't talk about hockey. We can't talk about hockey. But yeah, no,
Just
I'm
not
a
the playoffs.
yeah, or anytime really.
I don't know. Maybe this is just me as a Bruins fan, but like, I don't hate the Leafs as much as Leafs fans hate the Bruins. I'm more of a Canadians hater than a Leafs hater for some whatever reason, or Panthers too, just because that rivalry's been more intense the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, we just were like on paper for many years in a row, we should be winning. And then you show up and I'm like, I don't know what team we're gonna get. I don't know what team's gonna step out on that ice. And then we like play the Bruins and we're up by 3 and then with like 2 minutes left, we're down
Yeah.
1. I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what I was expecting. Like I've seen them make it out of the first round once, really. So, I'm just happy that I got to see that. But yeah, no, I can never stray away from the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they make me angry sometimes. They make
No,
me
I get it. I get it. Usually for the Bruins, they beat the Leafs in the first round, then they find a way. Then another team finds a way to break your heart in the second or third round. That's usually how it works. At least for the
Panthers.
last
Panthers.
Panthers, the Blues a few years ago. Always, they always it's Blackhawks a really long time ago. So usually that's how it works for Bruins fans. But at least we can always get a laugh when we beat the Leafs. That's usually the best part about the playoffs. But
It's
um,
not a laugh for me. It's not a laugh.
I know, but hey, Pasternak's a great player, so
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see if Austin Matthews being captain this year will change something up. I don't know if maybe it's a leadership thing. Got a new coach this year. I'm hopeful, but then again, I'm hopeful every year. And yeah,
yeah. I don't need to go on a tangent, but I just think like depth is kind of the Leafs' big problem. They have so many good like high-end players, but it's like the
yeah,
second, third, fourth line sometimes is inconsistent, and I think that's
yeah,
why sometimes it doesn't translate to success in the playoffs. I also feel like if Wolf or yeah, Joseph Woll didn't get hurt, they could have probably won that game because even though Samsonov played really well in game seven, the one bad goal he had came in overtime.
yeah.
So when he probably should have saved that, in my opinion, or played the puck. So, but it's a new season. Eventually, the Leafs, I feel like, will win a cup at some point because you care too much. I feel like it's bound to happen. Like no one thought the Panthers would ever win the cup, and they just won
That's
it last
true.
year.
That's true. Our fan base is just, we're not. If you're a Leafs fan, you're a Leafs fan. It's like we just
Yeah,
have. We're gonna be there. We're gonna stick through it. Show up every game. Just you know, I don't even know. Some
yeah,
some people are like, if they lose, that's fine. I'm still gonna love them. Other people are like, they gotta win, and then they don't win, and then they're like, yeah, I still love them.
yeah.
So it's whatever. I'm just hopeful that in my lifetime I'll be able to see them win a cup. If not, uh,
I can't imagine how Toronto would go for a parade if the Leafs won the cup. Because for the Raptors, it was insane, and that was just basketball. So I could only imagine what hockey would be like. But at least we both agree that we don't like the Montreal Canadiens. I think that's how we should end off this part of the
yeah.
podcast.
No, I'm not a Habs fan. But yeah, there we go.
So let's talk about your recruiting process with St. Bonaventure. What was that like for yourself, and what made you want to go there versus other schools you might have looked at?
Yeah, like I said, I was really interested in playing hockey in the NCAA. Like I thought that was my calling. Um, so it was a little bit different because for me, I wasn't necessarily not interested in playing lacrosse once I graduated high school. I just didn't really know. Um, so I wasn't really actively like searching, looking for schools that I might be interested in. I was more in contact with coaches for hockey. I realized and I was just like, fairly close to the recruiting period when it like opened up for us our junior year. So grade 11, I was grade 10, I'd say like halfway through COVID, I was like, all I want to do is play lacrosse. Like, I don't want to play hockey. I was done with hockey. I was like, I don't want to, I don't really think that this is what I want to do anymore. And so throughout COVID, um, we couldn't cross the border really at all and go on like tour even to just get a feel of like what campuses I might like. So I was just reaching out, emailing as many coaches as I possibly could, especially because I was like a little bit late and I didn't have that much like film. I was just, trying to get my name out there in a sense. I Sorry, I'm trying to think about words right now. First day when recruiting was open, I heard from like a bunch of different schools, and I was really surprised in a way because I didn't think that I had really done enough. It really came down for me. I kind of wanted to play somewhere like I did with the Redbirds. Like we didn't have a whole lot, and St. Bonaventure kind of not struggled, but struggled in the past. And when I was on the phone with a coach, he was like, "Hey, like we see you here, we see you making an impact." And that really stood out to me because I wanted to be a part of like a change. I wanted to be a part of something where like, I could show up and do everything I can and be a person that like my teammates are like, yeah, like, you know, you're good, right? Like you can help us out. Um, and so I was like, I wanna be a difference maker. Like I wanna turn around a program and make it something that people are like St. Bonaventure, like, yeah, like they're contenders. That was probably one of the biggest things for me. And I took a shot in the dark a little bit. I didn't, because again, like I said, we couldn't really get on campus. I went into grade 11, like I was busy at the Hill and everything. So I did an online tour with a bunch of different schools. The biggest thing probably also was the small community here with just going to the Hill, having like five other girls in my grade that I graduated with, like 35 kids in grade 12 graduation. I was like, yeah, like I like this. I like being able to walk around campus and just be like, hey, I know you, I know you. You get more one-on-one time with your professors, everything like that. So that's really enjoyable for me. The mountains that I saw in the pictures, it's quite remarkable. I get to walk down to the field every single day and see these gorgeous mountains and these trees, and especially right now in the fall, like I'm so lucky to be here. Like it is stunning. Um, all of these things kind of combined, the alumni networking that Bonaventure has, the just passion. You walk down the street, somebody says, "Oh, you go to St. Bonaventure," and if they say yeah, they got so many stories to tell you. They have so much passion, love for this school, love for this place. It's remarkable. Um, and I felt that, and I was like, you know what? Like this is something I want to do. So it was a crazy recruiting process. I didn't recruit until, I mean, I didn't commit until late in my grade 11 junior year. So it was a little bit different for me. A lot of my teammates and my friends were committing like really early on, and I was not stressed, but just kind of still had to feel out my options. And, I made the right choice.
Yeah.
This is where I should be.
And if I would imagine it's relatively close to home too, so family can see you play.
Yeah, that was actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I thought, and not thought, but like I still do, like I wanted to go far away. I wanted to be in like California, send me to Florida, somewhere where my, parents couldn't come and see me for a weekend. Love them to bits. But I was just like, yeah, I kind of want to see what the world is like. But here I am, and yeah, they can come and see me whenever, but so I'm not mad about it. And, Buffalo's pretty close. I can go get Tim Hortons whenever I want. That's
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse once you first like started playing fall ball as a freshman?
Yeah, I think that the speed of the game, it's not even necessarily just like foot speed, the way that the ball moves, the way that you as a player need to make decisions, have to adjust. Like if something's happening really quickly, 2 seconds later, something else is happening and you have to go from like one part of like or aspect of your game to a completely different aspect of your game. And I don't think I was ready for that at all. Especially in fall ball. I remember my first fall ball game, we like lost a draw and someone just took off down the field, fast break, put it in the back of the net, and I went, "Oh, okay, like this is happening. This is quick. It took me a while, I'd say, to adjust to that. I think the biggest moment where I was like, this is college lacrosse was our first game against UMass, my freshman year. They're just a powerhouse. Got to play against some people I knew. Jordan Dean took the first draw against her. Um, Fell when I was picking up the ball, and then they went down and capitalized on that opportunity. And I was just like, yeah, that checks out. Like they're gonna do that. But it was just one of those things where I don't think I was ready to see a team at that high level at that moment in time. I definitely wasn't mentally prepared. Um, and that's on me, but I lived through that game and now I'm like anytime someone talks about, those like high like those big names and everything like that, I'm like, yeah, they're good. Like they're
Yeah.
really, you know, they're really good.
I would
So that was hard.
I would assume that like every player has their welcome to college lacrosse moment, and obviously Jordan Dean's probably been a lot of players' welcome to college lacrosse moment, especially since she's one of the best draw takers, not just in the A10, but just in the NCAA in general. I think I read some stat where she's like breaking a lot of records in that statistic, which is really cool to see. And she's only I think she's coming into her senior year now, so it's pretty cool to
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, she the funny thing about that is like I know Jordan Dean, like we're teammates. She's one of my good friends. I walked up to the draw, just quick smile. She goes, "Hey." I was like, "Hi." How's it going? Like we were teammates. Like I love the girl. She's awesome. I was so scared though. They were like, "Pipes, like you're gonna take the opening draw." I was like, "Really? All right. Sounds good." And then yeah, it was raining out, ran over. She was like on my back end and I slipped under my feet and the defender, whoever was behind me or with Jordan, just came and picked up the ball and went down and
Yeah.
like I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was yeah, she's very talented. Every time I see her play, I'm just like in awe of what's going on. She's so skilled, so impressed by everything that she's doing. She's doing really well.
What's it like playing the A10 and just the competition you face each game?
Yeah, I think that the A10, like we're a very strong conference in my opinion. We got St. Joe's, Davidson, UMass, Richmond. Like we have a lot of talent in our conference. Um, it's so competitive and there are so many different things that I think that sometimes when you're talking about like your big conferences, your ACC, Big Ten, America East is pretty good. Like they got Albany, all this kind of stuff. I think that the A10 kind of goes unnoticed a little bit sometimes, and it's not frustrating, but for me, I'm just like we as a conference and as a women's lacrosse part of that, like we should be getting more recognition. Like UMass is super talented. They have so much potential and they're so strong. Same thing with like your Richmond, your Davidson, your St. Joe's. St. Joe's, I'm pretty sure last year was beating like ranked teams. I think they beat Princeton. I'm pretty sure they beat Army or Navy. I can't remember which one. UConn, like we have talent and to be able to show up here at Bonaventure wearing, like my jersey and I'm going up against those teams, like I get better every single time that I'm out there. It's so, so fun, especially even like playing against teams that are pretty close, like Duquesne's in the A10, they're like 3 hour drive. Like that, it's a super competitive game, right? So it's really, really an amazing conference and I'm happy to be a part of it and I'm happy to be a part of it, especially when it's growing. I think that it's gonna be really good.
Now, you've obviously received some academic awards as well, so I want to congratulate you for that. But how have you learned to balance academics and lacrosse at such a high level?
Yeah, I mentioned it earlier that the hill was really, really good for, no matter where you are, like you need to be putting your best foot forward in that. So, that was something that really prepared me. Like when we were there at school, we were at school, you had to be focused. Like our coaches were in communication with our teachers. They were like, "Hey, is this person focusing?" You had to, they would check our report cards, see how we're doing, our learning skills, like our responsibility, like our collaboration, all that kind of stuff. Those all were checked in on, and they wanted to make sure that we were representing the women's lacrosse program there really well. I was busy too. Like I commuted to school every single day. we had practice, we had lift, we had things, I would come home and then I would work too. So like I had to stay on top of those or else I was not going to succeed in school whatsoever. And my parents are very, very much like, hey, like you need to take care of your academics. Like that's I didn't have chores when I was growing up or anything like that. They were like, we're signing you up for sports, you love your sports. If you take care of your academics and we are satisfied with them, you'll never have to do chores, right? Like you focus on that, we'll focus on anything else. Like they just kind of always were like, your school is your priority. And so all of those things translating to St. Bonaventure, when I got here, we had study hall hours and everything, but that wasn't really like news to me. Some of the girls on my team in high school had study hall hours that they had to do. They would have to go and sit in the classroom and do homework with a teacher. So I was just like, all right, like this is what we're doing. Like this isn't anything I haven't seen before. And our coaches here do also really, really care about our academics. Same with the school as a whole. Like when we go into study hall, people have to turn their phones in. Someone will walk around, make sure that you're not like on, watching like YouTube or something. If you're getting your study hall hours in there, like you're there to do schoolwork. And our coaches like care and they want us to do well academically and they want us to represent our program well if we're in class, anything like that.
So your team improved from 6 wins to 8 wins this past season. What did you take away from your team's performance during your sophomore year? And what was the biggest reason from your perspective that led to the jump your team had in between both those seasons?
I think that my freshman year, we got an entirely new coaching staff. Coach Lee, my head coach, it was her. She graduated from Bonaventure as well, but it was her first year as a head coach when I was a freshman. So she didn't recruit us. She just showed up and was like, "Hey, I'm here now." And she always told us, like, we have people are talking about, rebuilding the program and everything. But she said that we always had the pieces to the puzzle and we just had to rebrand ourselves. Like she knew we could do it. She believed in us. And for the girls that were on my team for so long where maybe they didn't have as much confidence and they didn't have um people that believed in them and they didn't have as much drive and all this kind of stuff because, their coaching staff or the leadership or whatever it wasn't telling them that. It wasn't trying to strive for that. I think that that was the biggest thing coming in, but the upperclassmen had that for so long. Like our fifth years had that for like 4 years, seniors for 3 years. And then every year that Coach Lee is here and she's like, hey, we can do this. Like, I know you guys are good. You have potential. You're better than this. But whatever it is, like, she pushes us every single day to be the best that we can be because she knows that we can do it. And every single day that we show up at practice and that changes the mindset, the drive, everything changes. I think that was the biggest thing from my freshman year to my sophomore year is that, we had more people that had more experience being believed in and being told that they could do these things and being pushed and being driven. And so having that from your head coach, bringing it down to the team, and then having more confidence and more culture and more trust in your teammates, more belief within our own team every year that grows. And I think that was probably the biggest thing. Like we showed up and we were like, we made it to the A10 tournament last year. We know we can win. We know we can do this. Let's just go and do it, right? Like let's be the best that we possibly can. So I think that was probably one of the biggest thing that changed. And like every single year that we have that, it's going to grow.
Now, what do you think your goals and expectations are for next season, looking at it now?
Yeah, I think that like I said, freshman year we made it to the A10 tournament. Last year we didn't. We were in a three-way tie with VCU and George Mason, and goals for and against, or I can't remember if it was head to head or goals for and against that pushed us out. But obviously the goal is always to make it to the A10 tournament. My team is super talented, and I know that we can do it. Um, we want to win. We want to do everything that we can. We want to make it to that, but at the end of the day, if we're growing, if we're learning, if we're getting better, if we are coming together as a team and working on the things that we might have messed up in the game before or practiced beforehand, like those are little victories that like we still have and want and need. If that doesn't result in those things, it does suck because, everybody wants to win. That's what we're here for. We want to be the best that we possibly can be, but just making sure that we're taking care of those little victories. And then at the end of the day, if we do those things, it should result in what our bigger picture goal is, which is to be back at that A10 tournament.
Now, there's many things that make you such a great player, in my opinion, and one of the skills that you're arguably best at is draw controls. And since this is the draw control podcast, what is your mindset when you're heading into the circle? How do you work on that part of your game? And would you consider that the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your freshman year?
Yeah, so when I'm on the circle, I don't really know. I try and just like clear everything out of my head. We have, you know, our coaches do a good job scouting, telling us like, hey, this is what usually happens. Like this girl likes to push, pull, whatever, and what our game plan is, we can attack that, how we can counter that, whatever it is. I show up on the circle and I just am like, I just got to win the ball. If it comes to me, I'm winning this ball. If it doesn't come to me, I'm boxing my girl out. No matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, when I walk up to that line and that ref is about to blow the whistle, I'm like, hey, like if I'm in this play, if I'm not in this play, I'm making an impact for my team to win that ball. And you kind of just got to take a deep breath because it's so unpredictable. I think that the draw is one of the most unpredictable parts of the game. So just being ready, being loose, being agile, and just being like you're going to do your part no matter what happens in this moment in time. I think that's the biggest thing that I do to like prepare myself for the draw. Um, but it is so unpredictable. And so being able to track the ball, things like that, reaction time, those are things that my team really focuses on in practice and like ground balls, wrist strength, everything. They all come into play at some point or another. And communication. I'd say communication on the circle with your draw taker to your circle players is one of the biggest things that, my team actually like the girl that takes the draw on my team, most of the time I talk to her constantly while we're out there, and it helps us so much because we're always on the same page. I know what she's thinking, I know what she wants, I know what she's doing, and I'm pretty sure that she would tell the exact same thing about the people that are on the circle with her. So it's really fun to be able to say that, we have that chemistry.
Yeah, the reason why I ask if it's like the biggest improvement you've made to your game since your freshman year is because you obviously talked about that story when you played UMass and how you fell and led to a goal. But obviously, like I mentioned in the intro, you set this program record for single season draw control. So I'm just curious if you think that's like the biggest improvement you made to your game, or if there's anything else you could obviously mention that, but it must be really satisfying to see the improvement you've made to that part of your game, having that story. Now you can laugh about it just because you've gotten so much better at draw controls.
Yeah, my freshman year actually, I was the girl that took the draw. And like I took them in high school, I took them for my club team, I took them with the Hill, Redbirds, everything like that. Um, and I showed up in my freshman year and they're like, okay, like yeah, you can take the draw. I I can take the draw. I'm not necessarily like the best at it. And so I think that being put on the circle was one of the biggest adjustments because it wasn't my calling. You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't the thing where I really excelled at. And the girls I take in now, they're so talented on my team. They're amazing, and I am in awe of how well they can like place the ball, all that kind of stuff. So I think that that adjustment was huge for me because sophomore year I was in
Yeah.
like a different position where I was able to showcase something different. That like my coaches were like, hey, like she might be good at this. But yeah, I beforehand wouldn't have told you that I would be good on the circle, be good at managing that. I thought that I was taking the draw, and that was that. So it has been one of the biggest improvements in my game because I've been put in a spot where I can excel in that. And I got to thank my coaches for that because they saw that in me and were like, hey, we think that you're great in this role, but we think that you're going to excel even more in this role. So that was quite remarkable. And that definitely was something that, freshman to sophomore year, I was like, oh, I did get better at that.
Yeah. I do want to ask you one other question. That's obviously about the U20 World Championships. You got to participate in that, representing Team Canada. What was that experience like for you going to Hong Kong and winning a silver medal, representing your country? Just that whole experience, that must have been a lot of fun to participate in. And you got to do a cool media thing too when I was doing research for this as well. So I'm just curious what that experience was like for you and where do you keep the medal now?
The experience overall was just a dream come true. I grew up playing lacrosse. I watched so many people play lacrosse. I fell in love with the game. But everything that I have worked for and everything that I've put all my time and my parents' time, everything led up to, that moment being on that team. Uh, it was remarkable. I watched the U19 World Championships when they were in Peterborough beforehand, and I knew I was in awe of those girls. Like I looked up to them so much. I still do. And I know some of them, and I'm like, you are just so cool. So to be able to walk in their footsteps is just an experience like no other. And I hope that I can pass that along to somebody else. That's my goal. I hope that somebody sees that what I saw in them and it makes them fall in love with the game as much as those people did that for me. You know, Going to Hong Kong, being a part of Lacrosse Canada, getting to represent my country was just the best. The teammates, the cultures, the coaches, everything that we did together are memories that I will never forget. They taught me so much about who I am as a person, teammate, player. You know, I got to go to Hong Kong too. Not many people can say that they did that, right? So that's a bonus. But just to be with those girls, compete, play at that high level, learn from them, learn from our mistakes, learn how to be in difficult environments. Like we were on the other side of the world alone, just with each other. We were like, hey, like, you got a roommate, you got to hang out, you got to do all of these things. And it's a quick turnaround. Like, we had like two practices, three practices before our first game. They're like, all right, go. Right? Like, you have to be able to manage those things. It was just so remarkable. And to be able to say that I represented my country and, we got that silver medal, I'm so incredibly honored and proud of everything that my team did. And I'm so thankful that the coaches saw something in me and gave me the opportunity to do something that I've wanted for a very, very long time. The medal is safely at home in Ontario. I wanted to bring it to school, but it was just way too precious. I'm like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk losing it. I don't want to risk put it in the washing machine. I don't know, but like it's staying at home. It's in with all my other like sports
Yeah.
medals, trophies, whatever. But yeah, that would scare me. I would walk into my room every day and just be scared that something was going to happen to it. It's very beautiful though, and it's massive and it's heavy. It's really nice.
Are you gonna frame it at some point with like the jersey, I would imagine?
Definitely. I think so. Yeah, I think so. It was yeah. I have a Hong Kong jersey too, actually. I'm being another
You,
thing that was
you
so
did a
cool.
jersey swap? I didn't know this happened. That's cool.
Yeah, so like the one of the other things which I definitely should have touched on beforehand was just like being in that culture, being able to play against other people, like you're standing on one side of the field and you have Chinese Taipei, Korea, Haudenosaunee, US, all of those things. Like there's so many different cultures, there's so many different communities, there's so many different backstories, people, what they bring to the game, what lacrosse means to them. It was so remarkable. And we got to meet all of them. Like we were staying in the same hotel as some of them. The Hong Kong team took us on tours. Like they had a bunch of different things. And before every game, you do like a little pin swap with, or like stickers, whatever. You get to meet somebody across from you from who you're playing. And then at the end of the tournament, you do like gear swaps. So like girls have some like Lacrosse Canada gear that I had, and I have an Ireland, New Zealand, I have Hong Kong. There was a girl on the Hong Kong team. Her name is Tracy. She's like my best friend. Love that girl. We hit it off. She's awesome. She brings the energy every single time. She was cheering for me loud and proud when we were playing in every single game that she could come and watch. And at the end of it, she gave me her Hong Kong jersey. It's hanging up in my basement, and I will never, 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 never go anywhere without that. That is something I'll keep for the rest of my life. She signed it for me in anything. If I ever go back to Hong Kong, I will be so so incredibly grateful to see her. She is an amazing
Yeah.
woman.
That's awesome. I think that's the best part about those international tournaments is just meeting people from different countries that you would have never met if it weren't for lacrosse. So that's awesome. And hopefully you did get to keep one Canada jersey so you can frame it with the medal.
I did, yeah.
Okay, that's
I
cool.
got to
That's
keep.
cool.
Don't worry. I was like, nah, I got one.
Yeah. I would say the red one's my favorite. So that's the one I would have kept.
They were nice. The red ones were nice with the black.
Yeah,
Um,
that was my favorite.
yeah, they were really sharp. But since we came first in pool play, we got to be home for the all of like the quarterfinals, semifinals, all that kind of stuff. So we didn't really get to wear the red and black ones as much, but I think that they're really sharp. I wish we had got to to wear those maybe like one more time, just
Yeah,
for another
exactly.
picture.
Especially since I think the US white jerseys are the best, so that would have been a cool sort of jersey matchup, just from
Yeah,
that perspective. So, no, that's
I,
awesome.
yeah.
Now, one more question I want to ask you, Brooke, before we end off this interview is just any shout outs you want to give to any of your teammates from St. Bonaventure or from Team Canada, and who should we have on the podcast next?
I'll shout out Brooke Colangelo. She's here with me at St. Bonaventure, and she also was on Team Canada with me this summer. She's in my class here. She's from Ontario. She's from near Toronto. She's a great person, great teammate, great human, great player, and I'm so lucky to have all of these experiences here with her. She pushes me every single day to be the best player that I can be, and she's so talented. She's such an amazing human. I'm so amazed by everything that she brings to the table all of the time. And I'm so lucky that I had a familiar face like that on the other side of the world with me. We've done everything together really from the second we got here to Lacrosse Canada, and who knows what's going to happen next for us. But I'm very, very grateful to have somebody like her here with me, and clearly in other aspects, yeah, I'm very lucky. But one person I would shout out to come on the podcast is Daisha Cordingley. I think she's just wrapping up the box championships, and she was on the team with me. She's at UMass this year. You can maybe ask her about Jordan Dean. But yeah, no, Dacia's a good one.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll definitely reach out to both of them and see if they're interested. But Brooke, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. It means a lot to myself. I think you're a great player and a great person as well. And obviously, I want to congratulate you on all the success you've had with St. Bonaventure and the silver medal, and wishing you all the best for the upcoming season. I know you guys are definitely going to have a good season and make that A10 playoffs like you were talking about before. So this was a fun conversation, and hopefully we can have you back on again to talk about the upcoming season that we just talked about now.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun to be able to get on here and talk about Bonaventure and Lacrosse Canada and everything like that. I'm so grateful. I appreciate it.